Uh-huh.
All right. Hey, how's it going?
What's up, Seth?
Hey, nothing really. The greatest Tarantino movie. Just to acknowledge, I've seen most of Tarantino's movies. I haven't seen uh, Death Proof or what was that other one? The Hateful Eight. So I do have my own biases because I haven't seen every single uh, Tarantino movie. I think it was Grindhouse and Death Proof and The Hateful Eight were the only ones I have not seen yet. So I've and the second Kill Bill too. I haven't seen the second Kill Bill either. So other than and I also haven't seen Four Rooms. So or Planet Terror. So I haven't seen every single Tarantino movie. That being said, I've seen Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, Pulp Fiction, of course, Django Unchained, and Dusk Till Dawn, which is a Quentin Tarantino written and starring movie, and I think produced. He didn't direct it. So I've seen quite a few Tarantino movies, and that's what we're going to be debating today. So from everything from the way of storytelling to the character development, Pulp Fiction is the perfect Tarantino movie. Your turn.
Okay. Pulp Fiction. Yeah, I'm quite familiar with Tarantino. I enjoy him, some of his movies. I haven't seen all of them either. I've never seen Grindhouse with Death Proof, and I don't think I'm looking now at his list. I have not seen. Well, he's making Kill Bill Part 3, I see, Volume 3.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I saw The Hateful Eight. It was pretty good. It was all right. I thought the Django Unchained was better. But if I had to pick a Tarantino movie, of course, I think I'm going to go with Reservoir Dogs as the best film I think he's made. Written.
Reservoir Dogs is a fantastic movie. I mean, it's about the aftermath of a heist. Where it doesn't really show you the heist, but it shows you kind of the aftermath of
Right.
how it went. And I like that scene with Mr. Paint just running. And in fact, a really interesting trivia fact: the scene where Mr. Paint, Steve Buscemi's character, is running, and you see some of those cops, and there's one cop that survives and starts running and shooting after him when he steals the car. That was the producer of the movie, Lawrence Bender.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I watched the behind-the-scenes Reservoir Dogs about a year or two ago, and apparently they had different versions of the take where the guy gets his ear cut off. They actually had an actual close-up. They used prosthetics on the guy's ear, and they actually showed the actual ear cutting. But I think it's more intense and has more of a dramatic effect how they handed it away as he was taking off the ear. So I think the cut that they ended up doing is better than what they were initially trying to do. I've also seen Inglourious Bastards, and that was pretty good. I would like to see them do kind of Soviet Union version of that, killing commies too. That would be pretty awesome. But Pulp Fiction. So there's some really good scenes that I would like to talk about and discuss with you. One of them being the ending of Pulp Fiction, which is really good. Don't get me wrong, the ending of Reservoir Dogs is also good. It's just a little bit more an ambiguous ending, kind of like leaves the audience up for interpretation. Whereas it's more straightforward with Pulp Fiction. I like that scene where they're robbing the restaurant and taking people's wallets, and Jules sits down with the Tim Roth character known as Ringo, and he has like a chat with him and says, take my wallet, take the money out. I'm buying something with it, your life. I'm giving you that money so I don't have to kill you. I thought that was a really good one, and with all the Bible verses and stuff, it's powerful. But tell me why you think that Reservoir Dogs is a better movie than Pulp Fiction.
Well, I mean, of course, it's just preference of taste.
Of course.
To be quite honest, I was not a fan of Pulp Fiction until recently.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Because I'm not a fan of John Travolta, even though I thought he knocked out the park in the movie, but I can't get over that he's in Scientology. So I guess it's the bias in me, but to separate that from that, I thought Pulp Fiction was actually decent. But if I had to pick like a top three Tarantino, it wouldn't even be top three for me. And I get a lot of backlash from it from friends of mine who consider Pulp Fiction to be like a classic. But like I said, I guess it's about preference of taste. But for me, like Reservoir Dogs was a perfect film. It's a more it wasn't it was more grimy than anything. It was more like an independent shot film than like Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction was like a very well produced film by Tarantino. I thought that the difference was that I think they spent less money doing Reservoir Dogs than they did with Pulp Fiction.
You notice with Reservoir Dogs, it's a lot more linear of storytelling, and most of it's like in one location at that warehouse. Whereas Pulp Fiction, it's all over the place.
Right.
Retelling's all over the place. But I like that. And if you were to put Pulp Fiction in order, it wouldn't feel as right, And I like that how they kind of like move stuff around. I really liked the Wolf, Harvey Keitel's character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He had a very, very minor role. He's only in like 2 or 3 scenes, but he leaves a really good impression on the audience. And the thing I noticed about what I like about Reservoir Dogs, it's very style over substance. Like they have a very thin story, but there's a lot of guys, and it's a real character study because of how all the guys are have color coded names. Mr. Pink, Mr. Blonde, Mr. White, Mr. Brown, and I also really like just in general how Quentin Tarantino makes cameos in his own movie. He had a very small role in Pulp Fiction. He had a big part in From Dusk Till Dawn. He has a few scenes in Reservoir Dogs. So I like when directors do that when they star in their own movies. Martin Scorsese and a couple other directors have done that where they make cameo appearances.
Yes, in fact, the first director to do that was
Hitchcock.
Yeah, Hitchcock. I was going to say Hitchcock. Yes, Hitchcock indeed. Tarantino is actually a really good director. I like a lot of his films, and there was one film he didn't directly, he helped write it, and I thought it's a very underrated film, and that's True Romance, and I love that film. There's a lot of stars that got their first start in that. James Gandolfini, Brad Pitt, and what's his name, Val Kilmer. And but I thought Pulp Fiction too had a lot of key stars in it. I do like Eric Stoltz. Always thought he's a good actor. Samuel L. Jackson, of course, I love him, and of course I have a special affinity with Harvey Keitel. And for me, those are key actors right there. Keitel, is in a lot of favorite films that I love. And Stoltz is extremely underrated. I thought there's a lot of good films that he's in that I really like, and a lot of people have not seen. But it seems that Tarantino always gets those key actors that you don't think about and resurrects their careers. And I thought he did that with what's her name in that film, Kill Bill, Daryl Hannah, I think, at one point.
Yeah.
I know he likes using Michael Madsen. I thought after Reservoir Dogs that guy's career would take off, and it didn't. So
no, it didn't.
And that's a shame because he was great in Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah. They actually had a really good fact. I heard. I was watching like Did You Know Movies, and they said that the guy that played Marvin Nash, the cop, they had him in the trunk, and Michael Madsen was driving around and ordered at the drive-thru at Taco Bell while the guy was in the trunk just to get a feel for the character of blasting the radio. And I thought that was kind of funny and I think he was like when he was yelling to stop, he turned up the volume. I learned so many little tidbits of interesting trivia along the way. And I really like Tarantino's style of directing. It's really good people. So I think he's a very talented man, and he's very intelligent. He loves his characters so much to the point where it's like they could say really smart stuff, and it's just really good. Although I wanted to do a little mini rant. Jackie Brown, I would have to say, is probably the worst Tarantino movie I've ever seen in my life. It was just so weak. It didn't feel like a Tarantino movie. It felt like a guy that wanted to be Tarantino. He took a lot from other movies, which is normal Tarantino, like with his references and stuff. But I felt that the characters were weak, and Samuel L. Jackson playing a hustler wasn't as convincing as when he played, an like a rockin' gangster in Pulp Fiction. It just wasn't as convincing in my opinion. And with John, I listened to what you said about John Travolta. John Travolta could actually play good villains when he has a good script. When he has a bad script, like Battlefield Earth, he doesn't do a good job. But I saw him in the movie Swordfish, and he actually was very good as a villain.
Yeah, I've never seen that. But yeah, the only reason why I'm picking on him is because he's a Scientologist. That's all. I mean, but
oh yeah.
He recently just came out. The film Gotti, which is about to come out soon, and it's already got like horrible reviews. And I read about true crime. It's one of my passions too, besides 9/11. But John in the film, they're saying that he tried to portray John Gotti as a decent family man. Meanwhile, he was like an abusive. But nevertheless, I mean, I agree with you about Jackie Brown. I didn't like it at all, and I agree. I thought it deviated from his more like gritty instinct, his storytelling. He's a great storyteller. It's one thing. I also didn't appreciate Kill Bill at one point, and now I do. After watching it a couple of times.
And something I didn't like about Jackie Brown was how they portrayed Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro looked like he just wandered on the set, and they're like, "Hey, let's shoot this guy," and he's just like, "All right, man, let me take a bong rip or whatever." And it's like, "What are you doing? You're Robert De Niro, of Goodfellas fame and Scorsese fame, and you have all this stuff. You're Robert De Niro. Do something." And then he's just like, "Hey, I'm Robert De Niro. What's up?" And it's like, it was just really stupid. And it was characters I did not like. Like here was this girl played by Bridget Fonda who was like the only likable character. And what does Robert De Niro do? He shoots her off because she didn't shut her mouth. And it's like, wow. But then again, karma got him, and he gets killed later in the movie. Spoiler alert. But yeah, there's a lot of I like when how Tarantino handles his anti-heroes, because he has a lot of anti-heroes. Like Django was an anti-hero. Brad Pitt's character in *Inglourious Basterds*. People that are kind of like rebellious, that they don't really feel like they fit in, so they need some way to retaliate. He does a lot of these revenge stories that it's kind of similar, like a Grand Theft Auto-esque kind of story, a revenge tale sort of thing. And he does it very well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I won't deny that. I think he's one of the better storytelling directors. He's also, you brought up a point when it talks about, he references a lot of films too in his movies. In Pulp Fiction, he with Reservoir Dogs, when he named them Mr. Green, that's a reference to an earlier film called The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, and where the villains, if you ever seen that film, it's a bank rob. It's a film about where they hijack a train, and the name of the characters were Mr. Green, Mr. Gold, and he used that obviously in the film with Reservoir Dogs. There's another film that doesn't get, I only seen I think twice. And there's another, he helped write it. It was called Natural Born Killers. And I haven't seen that film in about 20-something years. So it seems like in his earlier career, he was writing really good films. I mean, he wrote and he directed Pulp Fiction, Romance, and Natural Born Killers in a matter of 1 year.
Wow.
Because Pulp Fiction came out in 94, Natural Born Killers came out in 94, and True Romance in 1993. And then, Reservoir Dogs, I think, was 1992. So that's a pretty damn good period between 92 and 94, those key films. But yeah, I think with Robert De Niro, starting in 97, 98, his career started going downhill. I think at that point, he was just taking films just for the sake of it. his epic career came in the mid '80s,
Yeah,
late '80s.
he kind of needed a paycheck. He needed to feed his family.
Right.
It was kind of like that. Not a passion project, but more of a like, hey, this is my career. I need to make some extra money or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that way. Like, and it also I felt the problem I had with Jackie Brown was there was such a lack of emotion and passion behind it.
Very.
It felt like
Very.
just wrote it just for the hell of it. Like, hey, I'm just gonna write a script, just cast a bunch of famous people, and it should be good. And it just like when watching the movie, it felt really, really rushed. Like it felt like they put too many subplots together. There was too many characters. And with Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, you have the right amount of story, the right amount of characters. And Jackie Brown, they just really screwed it up. And so, besides the Bridget Fonda character, the most relatable character is Chris Tucker. And Chris Tucker is the most relatable character, one of the most relatable characters in your movie. You got a problem. And don't get me wrong, I like Chris Tucker in Friday and Rush Hour, but he was like playing a thug in the movie, and he gets offed or whatever. And,
Right.
I'm expecting like a full-blown Tarantino movie, like where there's smart dialogue and shoot 'em ups and blood spatter and people going crazy or whatever. And I felt like it was lacking in Jackie Brown.
A key thing here too. Also, after he wrote Jackie Brown when it came out, he took the longest hiatus writing and directing films, because after Jackie Brown, which was 1997, the next film he made was Kill Bill, and that was 2003. So I wonder, because I know that after Jackie Brown, he caught a lot of flack from that film, and they were saying he was losing his touch. I wonder if he took a hiatus break from that. I'm not too sure, but it was like a 6-year break, and then he made Kill Bill. It seemed he got a rebound because that got good reviews. Kill Bill 2 came out in 2004, and then he did Grindhouse.
Yeah.
After that, and then did Death Proof. I never saw those.
No, I didn't.
But I did see Inglourious Bastards, and I saw Django Unchained, and then he did Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
And but Hateful Eight was all right. It was okay. Like it was all right. Like it wasn't like Jackie Brown bad. Django Unchained was pretty good.
Yeah.
And Inglourious Bastards was all right. But nothing like, you're not going to get anything like his peak. I guess his peak was like Pulp Fiction, Natural Born Killers, Reservoir Dogs, and True Romance.
Yeah.
But that was a long time ago. So
he's kind of lost his touch in a sense. Like there was that spark, and I think like after a while in Hollywood, some people start to lose their momentum, so to speak. Like
right, but like isn't that with anything though? Like we're always looking at like say, hey, we want this guy to be perfect, like perfect actor, perfect writer, and constantly like for me, Goodfellas is a great film. I always loved it. I have a special affinity for it. But after like De Niro and Pesci, after Goodfellas and Casino came out, it was like there was nothing left. I mean, there's nothing for them to write on. And
right.
De Niro, I don't think, is as broad in his acting skills, like say with Gary Oldman or Al Pacino. And then and De Niro even states that there's nothing left for me to do, and it's true. There's really nothing.
Same with Joe Pesci, because like Joe Pesci,
right,
he can only play so many characters. He usually plays like the angry mobster with a hot temper.
Right.
I mean, he kind of had some of that esque temper sort of thing in Home Alone, but like in Goodfellas and Casino, he was so good at playing that role. It got knocked. I think he won an Oscar for Goodfellas.
He won Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah, that was it. And I think after Casino and Goodfellas, Pesci also lost his sort of mojo. The same. I see similar fate, but not as dramatic. With Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler was really big in the '90s. He had Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison and Big Daddy. And then early to mid 2000s, the last decent movie I saw with Adam Sandler was You Don't Mess with the Zohan, which I thought was pretty good. The critics were really panned it. I just liked the whole thing about him being an Israeli secret agent, and he's like badass, and he's cutting hair and stuffing old women, and I just thought that was kind of funny.
No little Nicky.
Little Nicky was okay. I thought it had its moments. That's another movie with Quentin Tarantino in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm getting off track. I guess my point was that like Adam Sandler kind of lost his touch, and then there was that one movie I didn't end up seeing it, Pixels, and I think that really crushed his career. He's been doing some Netflix deals.
Yeah, I never even heard of it. So
it must be that forgettable because I just slowly, like after Zohan, he was in a bunch of these crappy movies like now pronounced Chuck and Larry, That's My Boy, Jack and Jill, which I had the displeasure of seeing Jack and Jill, and that's my.
Yeah, I never even heard of that. When was that made?
Oh, it was like late 2000s. It was Jack and Jill was release date. Jack and Jill was 2011.
Oh, he's been in a lot of bad films as of late.
Yeah, and That's My Boy was 2012. That was for the 2010s era was when he was really doing bad. The early to mid 2000s, he was doing okay. He had some decent movies like Anger Management and Click, but he's kind of really lost his touch. And I kind of have been seeing that a little bit with Tarantino because like Django was a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but there were certain things missing from it. It didn't really feel like a Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's still good, don't get me wrong, but that and like Inglourious Bastards and some of his newer movies they didn't have the same sort of energy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you.
I like that independent feel of Reservoir Dogs, like I was saying, how they filmed most of it in that warehouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love the idea that they would just like it didn't like deviate like into a broader spectrum. It just showed them as that gritty feel, and it was more of like a heightened tension. It was a little. I can't explain like in human form. Like it's just also true when I was younger, and I loved that gritty feel. I thought it was very well done. It was violent. It was brutal too. At one point, cutting off the ear, and he's talking into it. So, I thought it was great. I liked the concept of it too.
It was more authentic because when he did Pulp Fiction, they really gave. Sorry for my language. They really gave a shit. They really cared. They put a lot of effort. Not saying that that's not in Tarantino's later work. It is, but not to the same extent. Where they were just in love with their characters and they did such a good job, like Tim Roth's character is probably one of my favorite characters in Reservoir Dogs, just because of how believable he is.
I didn't like him as an actor, but I have a newfound respect for him. He's great in a film called Rob Roy. If you ever seen that,
I've heard of it.
Oh, he's fantastic. Liam Neeson is in it. It's a really good film. Tim Roth, I thought that was Tim Roth's best acting career right there in that film. He played a great villain, and it was fantastic. But I actually, one of the few things I liked about Pulp Fiction was, of course, one of the film about the Gimp when they're in that room.
I was just about to bring that up. I'm glad that you brought that up because I was thinking of that the Kamachi song or whatever.
And for me, that saved the film. Like I don't know why I don't like it. I just didn't do it for me. But that part, I was like, wow, it's really obscure and morbid, and I like that. I like that creativity.
I like how in the violent aspect of Tarantino's sequences, these scenes are so much fun to film. By the way, it makes the audience use their imagination to make it more intense, and I like that. It doesn't have to show. I mean, some of the scenes are very strongly portrayed and graphic to a certain extent. But for example, when he walks down and he slashes the guy and stabs him, you don't actually see the blade going through him, but you hear the sound effect. You see the pain going, oh, when he falls and all that stuff. So that intensity, where he doesn't have to really show the graphic detail, you know what I mean? I think he likes that with his audience, where it's getting to the point where it's the audience is like, oh, I feel this way. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Because it was so unpredictable, that scene in Reservoir Dogs where he ties up the guy and cuts off his ear. Because you think oh, he was gonna light the guy on fire, dousing him in gasoline, but nope, Mr. Orange saves the day, stuff like that.
And meanwhile, he's laying in a pool of blood. It seems like it's all over the place.
Yeah, and I actually was working on my Tim Roth impression when he's in the back seat of the car. I could do such a good voice of that scene.
Okay.
She got me, the freaking bitch. She got me, man. I've never been like this, man. Yeah. I just thought
that's actually pretty good.
Oh, thank you. I'm pretty much finished. Was there any final thoughts that you had?
Well, I would like to ask you: Is Tarantino your favorite director?
He's one of them. Yeah.
Who would you put up there with him, like in terms of directing?
I think Ron Howard and Steven Spielberg have given us some really fantastic work. I mean, we've got Jurassic Park and Jaws, and then Ron Howard's made some really good stuff. Like, I really like Ed TV. I don't know if you've seen that one.
No, I have not.
It's there have been people that have accused it of ripping off the Truman Show. The only difference is that in the Truman Show, everybody's an actor, and he doesn't know that he's being filmed. In Ed TV, he's part of a 24-hour reality show, and he's aware that he's being filmed. So that was a big difference.
Oh,
yeah.
And can you, if you can, in your best estimate, it's a hard question, but I want to ask it.
Sure.
Name me your top 5 films of all time.
Ooh. Cruel Intentions, Stand By Me, Die Hard. What else would I rate a 10 out of 10? I'd say maybe Princess Bride. And
it's a good one.
Yeah, and Pulp Fiction's probably on my top 5.
Yeah.
Like, I love Princess Bride. I hope that maybe in the future we could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'd love to. I love that film. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciated it, and
sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Seth. I'll see you later.